Hello friends, I am Nashava Parveen and today I am going to show you the competency based question of Science Standard 7 Time and Motion. First question, why do we need standard units of time? Standard units ensure uniformity and accuracy so that everyone measures time in the same way, avoiding confusion. How are modern devices better than traditional ones for measuring time? Modern devices like digital clocks and smartwatches are more accurate, easy to read, and may include additional features like alarms and timers. Why is a pendulum not affected by the mass of the bob? The time period depends on the length of the string, not on the mass of the bob. Why were the ancient clocks less accurate? Because they depended on natural elements like sunlight, water flow, or burning rate, which are not constant. Why does a pendulum clock lose accuracy in a moving train? Because the motion of the train disturbs the regular oscillation of the pendulum. External motion affects its time period, making it inaccurate. A student says a heavier bob will swing faster. Do you agree? Explain. No, this is incorrect. The time period of a pendulum does not depend on the mass of the bob, it depends only on the length of the string. Why can't a sundial be used in all weather conditions? A sundial depends on sunlight. It cannot work at night or on cloudy or rainy days when shadows are not clearly formed. Why is a stopwatch preferred over a clock in sports? A stopwatch can measure very short time intervals accurately, which is required in sports events. If the length of a pendulum is doubled, what happens to its time period and why? The time period increases because a longer pendulum takes more time to complete one oscillation. Why are modern clocks more reliable than ancient time measuring devices? Modern clocks are not dependent on natural factors like sunlight or water flow, so they give more accurate and consistent time. Why is a sundial not reliable? Depends on sunlight, cannot work at night or cloudy days. Why does increasing length increase the time period? Longer the path, more time for one oscillation. Why is a pendulum used in clocks? Because it has a regular or periodic motion. Why is motion always relative? Because motion depends on the observer's point of reference. Why is speed important in daily life? It helps us compare motion and plan time efficiently. Example, travel. Why do we say motion and time are inseparable? Because motion always occurs over time. Without time, motion cannot be measured. Two students walk the same distance. One takes less time. Who has greater speed and why? The student who takes less time has greater speed because speed equals to distance upon time. Less time equals to higher speed. Less time, higher speed. Can an object be at rest and in motion at the same time? Explain. Yes, an object can be at rest with respect to one object and in motion with respect to another. For example, a person sitting in a moving bus is at rest relative to the bus but in motion relative to the ground. Why is it incorrect to say the tree is always at rest? Because motion is relative. A tree is at rest with respect to earth but in motion with respect to the sun due to Earth's revolution. A car and a bicycle travel the same distance, but the car takes less time. What can you conclude? The car has greater speed because it covers the same distance in less time. Now, pendulum based thoughts. Why is the pendulum not released from a large angle in experiments? Because large angles disturb uniform oscillation and may affect accurate measurement of time period. A pendulum is taken to the moon. Will its time period change? Why? Yes, it will change because gravity on the moon is less, which affects the motion of the pendulum. Why do we repeat the pendulum experiment 3 times? To reduce errors and obtain more accurate and reliable results. A vehicle covers equal distances in equal intervals of time. What type of motion is it? Uniform motion. A vehicle covers unequal distances in equal intervals of time. What does it indicate? Non-uniform motion. Why is average speed used instead of speed in real life? Because speed is not constant in real life. Objects usually move with varying speeds. Why is measuring time for 20 oscillations better than measuring for one oscillation? It reduces human error and gives a more accurate value of time period. If distance remains constant but time increases, what happens to speed? Speed decreases because speed equals to distance upon time. Why does a rolling ball eventually stop? Due to friction and air resistance opposing motion. A person says, I traveled at a speed of 60 km per hour for 2 hours, so I must have covered exactly 120 km. Is this always true? Not always, because speed may not be constant throughout the journey. Why is the speedometer important for drivers? It helps maintain safe speed and follow traffic rules. Two vehicles travel the same distance. One takes 2 hours and the other takes 4 hours. Which one has a greater speed? Why? The vehicle taking 2 hours has greater speed because it covers the same distance in less time. A car covers equal distances but takes different times to cover them. Is its motion uniform or non-uniform? Explain. It is non-uniform motion because equal distances are covered in unequal intervals of time. Can a moving object have zero average speed? No. If an object is moving, it covers some distance. Therefore, average speed cannot be zero. How will you calculate the speed of a moving object? Measure the distance covered, measure the time taken using a stopwatch. Use formula speed equals to distance upon time. What conclusion is drawn from the pendulum experiment? A pendulum always takes the same time to complete one oscillation, constant time period. Why is time for 20 oscillations measured instead of one? To reduce errors and get more accurate results. Why is motion always relative? Because motion depends on the observer's point of reference. Why is speed important in daily life? It helps us compare motion and plan time efficiently. Why do we say motion and time are inseparable? Because motion always occurs over time. Without time, motion cannot be measured. Two students draw distance time graphs. One graph is steeper than the other. What can you conclude? The steeper graph represents a higher speed because a greater slope indicates greater speed. Can two objects have different speeds but start from the same point on a distance time graph? Yes, their graphs will start from the same origin but will have different slopes. A distance time graph is parallel to the x-axis. What does it indicate? The object is stationary and its speed is 0. Can a curved distance time graph represent uniform motion? Give a reason. No, uniform motion always produces a straight line graph because distance increases uniformly with time. Now these are the case-based questions. You can check it out.